Geiger Investments presents the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger. There are many pieces to the modern retirement puzzle. This show talks about those pieces of retirement and the tools used to help the retired and soon to be retired toward their lifetime goals. Welcome. The Academy is on the air.
Welcome to the Retirement Focus Academy. I'm Mark Elliott, and of course, Kevin Geiger of the Geiger Investment World. You can certainly go to the website to find out more about Kevin, his wife Lauren, a business partner as well. GeigerInvestments.com, G-E-I-G-E-R, GeigerInvestments.com. If you have questions about anything that Kevin talks about on the program, or just questions about where you are on your road to retirement, hey, Kevin, when can I retire? Do I have enough? Will my money last as long as I do? Will my loved ones be okay if something happens to me? Those are big questions, and the team at Geiger Investments are here to help. The number, we'll give it to you throughout the program, 843-375-8700. There's no cost, no obligation, no pressure to chat with the team. They're here to help. Just don't know if they can until they hear your situation. 843-375-8700. And, of course, I always want to encourage you to go check out the Retirement Focus Academy website, retirementfocusacademy.com. Great resource for anyone nearing retirement or in retirement. There's a lot of different educational workshops covering all topics related to retirement. A great resource, and it's always free of charge to you. The retirementfocusacademy.com website. Kevin, welcome. How are things? You doing all right?
Yeah, everything's going great over here. I can't complain. It's Sunday, and we're here doing this wonderful radio show talking about all things about retirement and financial stuff. So what couldn't be any better than doing that on a Sunday?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we're going to talk today about things that you need to know when you retire. And I think you've broken it down into about 4 different things that we really need to understand about retirement and things that we should be thinking about heading into retirement. So we'll take a couple each segment and talk about those. I guess, where do you want to start? 4 things that we really need to know when we retire. What's the first one?
Well, I'd say the first one, first and foremost, is probably, I think, one of the biggest ones, and that's Social Security. Social Security, I feel, has always been a problem with people going into retirement. There's just so much, information out there, and if you ever try to call the Social Security office, they're never going to give you, true answers. They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. But in some cases, it's not giving you the right, information to make sure that you're making the right decisions on your Social Security that's going to be in the best interest for you. The people that work for the Social Security office are doing what they have to do for the best interest of Social Security, right? So Social Security, I think, is probably an area that we should probably talk a good amount about on the show. So let's talk about that. So one of the misconceptions about Social Security is the fact that people think Social Security is going to be an all tax-free benefit, right?
It should be.
Right? It used to be, right? And then, that all changed years back. And I think
1983 is when they made it up to 50% of Social Security can be taxed. Then 1993 is up to 85%.
That's exactly right. And I think that's important for people to really understand. So when you're talking about Social Security, so what does that mean? So if you're an individual filing, right, versus a joint filing, if you make between $25,000 to $34,000 in retirement, 50% of your Social Security benefit will be taxed. Anything over $34,000, 85% of that benefit you're getting from Social Security is going to be taxable. And then if you're joint, so if you're filing joint and things like that, $32,000 to $44,000 is going to be taxed at 50%, and then any income over $44,000 would be taxed at 85%. Well, people are like, well, but that doesn't really apply to me because I've got Social Security and I'm taking different things from my IRA accounts, and maybe I have some a little small job, and I've got some interest and dividends off of different investments. Well, newsflash, all that stuff counts towards your income. So it's real important for people to really understand that, if you start drawing down your IRA account, or if you have different types of investments where you're getting interest and dividends, or, other things like that are in place with this stuff, that's all going to count towards that number. So it's really easy to get to that point where your Social Security benefit is going to be taxed. So it's important for you to know that you've got to really look at all this stuff to make sure you're maximizing and being efficient about how you're taking your income from your different investment accounts. So hopefully, and maybe in some cases, you can stay below these thresholds. And another thing that people need to understand is there's a 2-year look back, right, when they're looking at all this kind of stuff. So they're going to look at your last 2 years of income and factor that in when it comes to the point of figuring out if you're going to be taxed. So a real big misconception is when you go into retirement and maybe only drawing a few dollars off your IRA account, they're still going to look at the last 2 years of your employment to count that against you for that taxable amount tied against your Social Security payment. So real important for people to really understand that Social Security in most cases might actually be a taxable scenario for yourself. So it's good for you to understand that stuff and do what's right to be efficient going forward.
And there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to Social Security. Widows and widowers eligible at the age of 60. 62 is when most of us are eligible for Social Security. 70 is when there's no point in waiting any longer. It can't grow anymore. And so when you think of maximizing, you think of waiting. Well, sometimes that makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. So when and how do you take Social Security? You're married? Do you stagger it? Does one start early, one wait? Because don't forget, when somebody passes away in a married couple, the lower of the two Social Securities goes away. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments can certainly help walk you through what is the best time and scenario for you to start Social Security. It's not a simple question. It's not taking Social Security in a vacuum. It's with everything else in your portfolio. When and how does it make the most sense to take Social Security? You can always call the team. They're here to help. No cost, 843-375-8700 if you have questions about when and how to take your Social Security, 843-375-8700. And I know the other one you're going to talk about is probably going to be another government tool in our retirement tool belt.
Yep, and we're definitely going to talk about a lot of that stuff. And actually, there's a little more to Social Security I think we should talk about.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about Social Security, I think. Really.
Oh, yeah, there's so much more.
I think the studies were out that some group did a study on Social Security and said 96% of Americans take Social Security the wrong way. Social Security Administration had said 70% take it the wrong way. And then this other firm went out and studied it and said, we think 96% of Americans take Social Security the wrong way for their situation. Doesn't mean you're wrong at 62 or wrong at 70 or anywhere in between. It just means you were wrong for your situation.
And that's right. And that's a real important thing, I think, for people to really understand. The misconception is, I'm going to start this right at 62 because I just want to start my benefits because I don't trust Social Security and stuff like that going forward. But, you got to understand that Social Security is such a big system, right? And there's so many people that are on these benefits that I think there's a misconception that Social Security is just going to go away one day. Will there be some tweaks and changes to it? Possibly, and we all don't know exactly what's going to happen. My guess is they're going to start bumping up the income limits to bring in more money. They might even bump up the percentage of how much are withdrawn from people to pay into the system, so they can keep these benefits going, because the last thing they want to do is start cutting a huge amount of money off of people that are in retirement. That's just my opinion. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's talking about being strategic in how you're actually drawing out your income in retirement, right? So when you're thinking about Social Security, and let's just say you're still working, and you're 62 and you say, I'm just going to start this and start drawing on this thing. Well, here's the newsflash. 85% of it is probably going to end up being taxed first and foremost. So you're going to lose that going forward. On top of that, you're now locked in this lower benefit when you really didn't really need it. You had this income coming in from your job. If you would have waited to full retirement age and start drawing on it at that point, which would be 66 and some change age-wise, now you'd actually have a larger benefit. But even going further with this, this is where it's important when people sit down with us and I say, hey, let me look at what you have. You've done a very good job saving for retirement right now. Now it's important to say, let's figure out a way to maximize the biggest benefit you're going to get from Social Security. And so a lot of times what we do is we restructure their investment stuff they currently have, so we can maybe start drawing on the retirement savings they did to try to drag this out so we can draw this maybe closer to age 70, because every year you wait past age, full retirement age, you're also getting an 8% increase to that benefit every year all the way up to age 70. So this could mean that your benefit is going to be a lot bigger in retirement. So if you do this, it's only going to help yourself. And then at that point, you can tone back what you're taking off your retirement accounts, because now you have a larger paycheck coming in from Social Security. That is something that's real important. Another thing that people understand is, how do you get raises in Social Security? This is the one question I always get asked. How do I get a raise in Social Security? Well, the way it works is it's based off of the cost of living, what they call the COLA, right? And that's based off the Federal Consumer Price Index. So that's how you can always figure out how much of a raise you're going to see in your Social Security every year. It's all based on that stuff. And then we start talking about the benefits of, spousal benefits and things like that. And this is, one area I want to make sure we touch on, and then we can kind of move on to the other good stuff. But, first and foremost, right, there's ways again, everyone's situation can be a little unique, and this is important to sit down with someone for everyone's situation. But there's a way for spouses to actually start taking, for example, if I'm drawing in Social Security, and let's say I'm getting $2,000 a month, My spouse, in a lot of cases, can take half my benefit without even starting her benefit, getting $1,000, and I'm still getting $2,000, so they can wait longer on hers to collect a bigger benefit, right? Now let's talk about people that are divorced. This is the last piece to the puzzle to Social Security. And again, I'm talking a lot about Social Security because this is one of the main areas that I always get a lot of questions about. So when it comes to people that are divorced, this is important to understand. If you've been married for at least 10 years, and you've been divorced, right? And as long as you're 62 or older and still single, you can actually still collect 50% of that person's benefit. That's huge. And on top of that, your ex-spouse will never know you even had half that benefit. So it's real important. And I know a lot of people that are staying single after they've gotten divorced because they don't want to lose that benefit going forward. But that's a huge benefit that if you are divorced and you do fit these qualifications, you actually have the ability to file against your ex-spouse's Social Security without affecting his or her Social Security payment at all, but it might actually provide you a larger benefit. So a lot to do with Social Security, a lot of things that we're sitting down with a professional like ourselves can come through and figure out the best way of maximizing your Social Security benefit.
And it's obviously not looking at Social Security in a vacuum. It's looking at everything else you have. When does it make the most sense? So, for example, this year, I'm going to turn 62. Well, I'm working, so I'm not going to start it because of that $2 I take in, I give back $1, as Kevin said. So that means people that are turning 62 in 2021, that means they were born in 1959, which also means their full retirement age is 66 and 10 months. And then, of course, those next year turning 62 will have been born in 1960. Full retirement age for everybody at this point is 67 moving forward. So there's just a lot of moving parts. The team at Geiger Investments here to help, because this is one of those decisions that once you make it, you have 1 year to change your mind. And you got to pay everything back if you do that. But once you get past a year, you are locked in. There are no options available to you. So if you do it the wrong way, a lot of times you can't fix it. So the idea is make the right decision to start with. And the team at Geiger Investments certainly can help you do that. 843-375-8700 is the number again. No cost for this. 843-375-8700. Kevin's talking today about the things you need to know when you retire. Well, we just spent the whole segment talking about Social Security. Super important. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the other 3 things you need to know when you retire. Stay with us. This is the Retirement Focus Academy powered by Geiger Investments. We're back in 1 minute.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Get the retirement planning information you need by joining Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments for the Retirement Focus Academy. What's the best way for you to take Social Security? When can you sign up for Medicare, and what does it actually cover? What and is there a way to lower your tax bill? These and much more will be discussed. To enroll in an upcoming virtual Retirement Focus Academy course, visit retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Plan today so you can do the things you've dreamt about doing in retirement. Sign up for the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger of Geiger Investments at retirementfocusacademy.com or call 843-790-9293. Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Our firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
You're listening to the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger, powered by Geiger Investments. 843-375-8700.
We're talking about 4 things that you really need to understand and know when you get into retirement. We started with Social Security because Social Security is one of the misunderstood really benefits and assets we have in retirement. If you had a $2,000 Social Security monthly benefit, let's say, for a year that's $24,000, but over 20 years that's $480,000. And you think about the money that is in this decision, that you make the wrong decision, you could cost yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's really about doing it the right way. And again, the team at Geiger Investments are here to help you with that. 843-375-8700. Well, that's the first big thing we need to know and understand is making the right decision when it comes to Social Security. Social Security Administration says 70% of us take it the wrong way. There's another group that says 96% of us take it the wrong way. So this is really an important question. What's next on your list of the 4 things we need to know? We've only covered 1.
Yep, and I think the next one's a real good one, right? It's about being tax efficient in retirement. Well, what does that all mean, right? Well, everyone has this misconception. I sit with people a lot, and they're like, well, my friends told me, I got to do it this way because they know everything, right? And they're making their own decisions, and they're doing it right. Well, here's the deal. And I sit with people a lot, and I go, they might have done real well. They saved up a lot of money in their 401k. Now they've moved it to a traditional IRA at this point. And they've also done a very good job saving some extra money in their after-tax account. Well, what I always tell people, I go, the best way to do this is I'm a bigger fan of drawing down your IRA accounts first, right? Because the reality is if you let those things grow, and let's just say you retired at 65 and let them grow till 72 and you're required to take the required minimum distribution, that account's going to get a lot larger. And now you're going to be forced to take these RMD payments that are going to be a lot larger that could also affect your Social Security benefits, obviously, your Medicare cost, because now you're going to be paying penalties because you have too much income coming in. And every year it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm a bigger fan of to start drawing down your IRA accounts first. Try to get those down as low as you can. And then at some point you start drawing off of your after-tax dollars because now it's going to be more of a tax-efficient thing across the board. So this is just one of the ways. There's a lot of other ways we can be tax-efficient, but tax efficiency is real important in retirement because the better you are about being tax efficient, the better your retirement's going to be because you're going to save yourself a ton of money in taxes as well as all those penalties. And there's a way of doing all that stuff, but you've got to know the right ins and outs to get there going forward.
And you think about it, the Trump tax law that went into play, January of 2018? And they voted on it in 2017. But his tax laws go out the window, basically, for individuals and families, January 1st of 2026. Obviously, we know the Biden administration is talking about raising taxes. So there's a lot of moving parts. So your window of opportunity to be tax efficient might be closing a little bit on you. It'd be a great time to talk with the team about where you are. Are there some things I could do? Can I move some money into the Roth world? Does it make sense? And it doesn't make sense for everybody. Everybody's situation is different. But the team at Geiger Investments can certainly help you. 843-375-8700. And it's really one of the challenges, isn't it, Kevin? I mean, my grandparents were always under the illusion, and they were right, that their taxes would go down in retirement. They didn't have 401ks and IRAs. So they didn't have those tax-infested tools in our retirement tool belt. In theirs, it was a pension, Social Security, and what they'd saved. So taxes for them were going down. For us, taxes probably going up in retirement, possibly with those IRAs and 401ks that have never been taxed.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's real important for people to understand is you don't want to continue to grow those IRA accounts to monstrous size accounts because when you're forced to take those RMDs, as required minimum distributions, that percentage that you have to take out is going to go up every year you get older. So as long as that account keeps getting bigger and your withdrawal amount keeps getting bigger, you can only imagine the amount of tax burden you're going to have going forward. And especially if the Biden administration does push a bigger tax agenda, this could affect you and really decimate your retirement going forward because you might end up paying so much more in taxes. So this is an important thing that I think everyone needs to start planning for and not just sitting on the couch just thinking about it. Start doing something about it today because you have a chance to fix these things so it won't affect you going forward.
So again, that number, if you'd like to learn more about your specific situation, because that's what it's all about at Geiger Investments. It's about you. What do you need to put yourself in a better position? 843-375-8700. No cost for the phone call. 843-375-8700. So we're talking about the things you need to know when you retire. We started with Social Security. You need to be tax efficient, and you're sitting on IRAs and 401ks that have never been taxed. Are there things you could do now before you hit that required minimum distribution age to maybe lessen some of the tax burden? Maybe, maybe not. Everybody's situation is different. The next thing we need to understand and know about, you used to do an entire radio show on this topic. That would be Medicare, Kevin.
Yep, and Medicare is a big one, right? Between Social Security and Medicare, if you don't make the right decisions with either one of those things, you're only going to affect your retirement going forward, right? So it's important for people to understand, right? So when you're starting to, get to the point where you're getting ready to turn on your Medicare, you need to understand what Part A and what Part B are, right? So Part A is your brick and mortar, right? That's your hospitals and all that kind of stuff. Your B is covering your doctors. Well, here's the deal. If you set up just Part A and Part B and do nothing else, and shockingly, I was amazed at how many people, when we were calling from the radio show, and we did the Medicare stuff last year, a lot of people are just on A and B. And they're like, well, that's what I signed up for, and that's what I'm doing. Well, here's the downside to it. you have a 20% coinsurance. So if your bill is $10,000, you're on the hook for $2,000. There's no limit to how much you have to pay into that thing. So it's important for you to understand that if you have Part A and Part B and you don't want to pay for any extra insurance, then maybe you should look into a Medicare Advantage plan. These things have been, for majority of them, have actually been pretty reasonable, where they're zero cost to you, and it ends up putting limitations in on how much your out-of-pocket costs are going to be. It also includes things like, your drug coverage, your hearing, your vision, your dental, even some free meals, a free gym membership, all these things that can be included in there. So if you're not willing to want to spend extra money on a Medicare supplement plan that would cover that extra 20% of A and B, then you should really be looking into Medicare Advantage. And October 15th this year is when open enrollment starts, so you have a chance to sign up for these things, no underwriting, and it could also solve your Medicare needs and keep your costs down as much as possible, and maybe add some additional benefits. So real important for you to really understand the Medicare side and everything that's inside there, and how you can maximize that benefit. You have a chance to fix it coming October 15th if that's the case, but you need to make sure that you're proactive and making these changes to lower your cost, bump up your benefits, and do something that's going to be better for you.
So back last year when we were talking Medicare all the time, and what I gained out of that was obviously some knowledge about Medicare, but also that Medicare Advantage typically is, if you're in pretty good health, you don't expect to have a lot of health issues, it's a little bit cheaper for you. Medicare supplements and Medigap they're the same thing. Supplements and Gap are the same. Medicare supplements and Medicare Gap, or Medigap, I should say. But those maybe would be the ones that might cost you a little bit more in the short term, but might cost you less in the long run. Yes?
That's exactly right. So I always tell people, I go, do you want to pay now or do you want to pay later, right? And yeah, if you're looking for the primo of health insurance, I'm talking just health insurance for your health, then you're better off setting yourself up with a Part G Medicare supplement plan. This is the one that's going to cover that extra 20% coinsurance, with Medicare. So that you pretty much have 100% coverage across the board. So you could be in the hospital, it could be terminal, dealing with all these different issues, knowing that it's not going to affect your retirement savings, hurt your spouse because of just exhausting the assets to pay for bills, right? So, but you're going to have to pay a premium every month to have that plan. And if you're healthy right now, and you've been on Medicare, you'd have to go through underwriting to take that on. You can only get into a supplement without underwriting right when you qualify for Part A and Part B. So if you're healthy right now and you are Part A and Part B, you can right now look to get into a supplement plan to cover that Band-Aid. But Medicare Advantage plans, they have a lot of bells and whistles, and it's definitely a better option than just Part A and Part B. So if you're just not willing to pay the extra cost or don't want to, definitely looking into Medicare Advantage. If you're looking to pay the money today and save yourself in the long run, look into a supplement plan.
So, of course, Kevin's other company, Carolina Medicare, can certainly help you with all of this, but you can call the same number, 843-375-8700, especially as we get closer to the open enrollment of October 15th. What is it, October 15th through December 7th, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so that's open enrollment period, October 15th through December 7th. And you can think of Pearl Harbor Day. I think everybody's getting close to retirement. Remember that date, December 7th, 1941, I believe it was. But anyway, it's October 15th through December 7th. So Medicare is obviously a big thing that we need to understand. Again, the number 843-375-8700 if you have questions about that, especially if you're in that area on Medicare and you need to make a tweak, or you're 64 getting ready to turn 65. It'd be a great time to understand more about Medicare. All right, so the 4 things you need to know. 1, Social Security. Make the right decision for your situation. Being tax efficient moving forward. We all think taxes are going up. Medicare. So that's 3. We got one more to get to, Kevin. What is it?
Well, the last one is probably an important one. This is what you're doing to leave to your loved ones, whether it's your spouse or your kids, and that's called legacy planning, right? And legacy planning is so important. If you want to make sure that you're leaving something to someone that you love, whether, like I said, it's your spouse or it's your children, you need to make sure that you're doing the right things with the assets, the money you've saved in retirement, to make sure that you're passing these on efficiently to them, right? And I think the word today has always been about efficiency, right? And I say this a lot in meetings. Retirement is all about being efficient. And that means everything that you do in retirement, you want to make sure you're doing right, that's going to really reduce your cost, reduce your tax liability, and pass on bigger, better benefits going forward, right? That's always my game plan. Well, when it comes to legacy planning, you need to understand that, if you decide, you know what, I just want to spend my last dollar, but I want to leave something for someone, well, then maybe you should consider using some life insurance, for example. You can buy some pretty reasonable life insurance, still pass on a tax-free benefit to your kids, or maybe have a younger spouse. Maybe you're 10 years older than your spouse. So in that scenario, you're thinking to yourself, there's probably a good chance I'm going to be gone before she is. So you need to find a way to stretch that money out. Well, some cases, you might end up finding out that you might not have enough saved, or you want to spend the rest of that money. Then again, look into a life insurance thing, or maybe you find ways to pass on larger assets. We've talked about this before in the other show, where we said, maybe you've saved a lot of money, but you've got a tax burden going forward. Or there's ways of setting up different tools that'll allow you to pass on tax-free money to your kids or your spouse and so on going forward. But you've got to use the tools that are in place. It's not just here's the money and run, because one of the things that people have to really understand is IRA accounts are probably one of the hardest ones to pass on to your kids, because now with the new tax law change, they have to draw out that whole account over a 10-year period. And if you've got $1 million+ IRA account you're passing on, that tax burden is only going to hurt them going forward with their own income and everything else. So there's ways of utilizing tools and there's ways of being efficient, but you've got to make the right decisions and you've got to be sitting down with someone to help put a plan together.
Don't you think, Kevin, this is kind of what Geiger Investments is all about, is sitting down with an individual or a couple that you're talking about their retirement, is looking at their situation and finding out what areas, because what we don't know, we don't know. You do this day in and day out, so you understand it more. But it's really about, I think, enlightening a little bit, and which is why you have the retirementfocusacademy.com website where people can learn more about these different areas. But that's really what it seems to me is you're here to help guide us.
That's exactly right. And this is what Geiger Investments is all about. We are the ones that can put all these tools in place. We're the ones that know exactly how to be efficient. We know exactly how we need to structure the plans, and we know exactly how to execute these plans. This is what we do on a day-to-day basis. And the great thing is when you sit down with us, we do a free consultation, sit down and say, let's look at your situation, because we want to see if we can bring some added value to you. There's scenarios where it just doesn't make any sense. And I say, here's a couple ideas and give it to you and you just run out the door and do what you got to do. But there's a lot of cases where we've pretty much solved your problem. We know exactly how to fix things. We know exactly how to cut costs and taxes and so on. And we can help implement that plan. That's what we're good at. And this is what we continue to do day by day.
So, Social Security, need to understand it, need to make the right decision for you and your spouse if that's the situation. You need to be tax efficient going forward, no question. We all think taxes are going up, and that certainly can affect your legacy and estate planning, which is one of the things you need to understand. And then, of course, Medicare. So there's just a lot of moving parts. You have questions about any of this or all of this, call Kevin and the team at Geiger Investments, 843-375-8700. Again, there's no cost, there's no obligation, there's no pressure for this. It's 843-375-8700, 843-375-8700. Covered a lot of ground today, as we do every week on this program. Kevin, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a great week. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, Mark, and take care, y'all.
This has been the Retirement Focus Academy with Kevin Geiger. Advisory services offered through Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC, and Geiger Investments are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Black Ridge Asset Management, LLC.
A Roth conversion is a taxable event and may have several tax-related consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
This radio show is a paid placement.